Welcome back to the Armstead Family YouTube channel. Today we're going to talk about how we got involved with minimalism. And she's going to start off because she was the one who first embarked on that journey for our family. But before we jump into today's video, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and click the bell so you can get notifications every time we post a video.
So let's start in the beginning. In January of 2017, I had my daughter and I was just so overwhelmed. We had so much stuff. We had enough baby stuff, baby clothes, everything, bottles for like 10 kids. And I just found myself so overwhelmed by everything. It was so stressful because I put this like weight on my shoulders, like she had to wear everything she had and we had so much stuff. So I found myself like being busy with just changing her outfits and trying to make her look cute and do all this extra stuff. And it was kind of ridiculous. I had stuff everywhere, like the room, her crib was empty, but everything else had stuff everywhere. So I wanted to get rid of a lot of it, but it was all sentimental to me. Like literally every single thing she had ever touched to me was sentimental. If she wore it, forget about it, I'm keeping it, you know? It was one of those things that I feel like a lot of moms go through. So I feel like it's common for moms to feel that way because especially with your first child, you really do feel like you should keep everything. And also if you're planning to have more kids, it's kind of a struggle because it's like, do I keep it for the second baby or do I just get rid of it and get new stuff? So there's no like perfect answer for that, but I was pregnant 9 months after having my daughter. What I did was organize all of the baby stuff into perfect bins that filled the entire storage downstairs underneath the staircase. So it was a lot of stuff. I wanna say it was like 6-7 bins, like large bins from Home Depot. And I told myself like, if this baby is a boy, I'm getting rid of everything. Like I'm not even gonna go through it, like it stressed me out. So we found out like 2 months later that I was having a boy. So then I was like, that's it. Like this is permission to myself to get rid of all of it. And I split it up between 2 friends and I let them take all of the clothes. Funny thing is I haven't missed a single thing. So I guess it really wasn't that sentimental to me. With my son, I was like, okay, I'm not gonna make this same mistake. Like I can't have this many baby items. So I was a little more careful with bringing in baby items after that. That was the first, like, I need to get rid of stuff because this house is overwhelming. But it was nothing near like minimalism or anything like that. So then how minimalism happened for us was our daughter was diagnosed with a severe speech delay. When she was evaluated, her speech therapist asked me if my daughter was having too much screen time. And I said no, but she asked me like, how often is she watching TV? And she was only she was
maybe one.
One? Yeah. And so then I started thinking, I'm like, well, the TV's always on. I mean, our daughter would be in the bouncer. She was always in front of the TV, basically. Like, Word Party would, like, calm her down. Like, we put it on, Chuggington or Word Party. Chuggington is, like, gone off of Netflix. She loved it. Like, it would calm her down. She was mute. And so, basically, the speech therapist said, let's try to really limit the screen time. Because some kids who are nonverbal, they're kind of comfortable with just watching, you know, being consumed in cartoons, that they're not interested in like interacting with the people around them. So my daughter was not giving us eye contact. She was not trying to talk. She started signing like here and there, like more like she wanted food and stuff like that. But that was about it. So then I had a crazy idea. When she told me to limit screen time, I was like, challenge accepted. I'm gonna get rid of the TV, literally. So I felt like if I still had the TV when things got overwhelming, I would just put it on. So instead, I'm like, I have to do something drastic. So he came home one day and I was like, listen, we're getting rid of the TV. And he kind of was like, okay. Like, he was for it, but kind of like, why? So then I told him and he was like totally on board because he likes crazy ideas and he likes a challenge. So we put the TV in storage like immediately, like that day. And then we were TV-free home for over a year. And so how that ties in to minimalism, I was so bored and I didn't really know what families without TVs did. Like, honestly, like, do you guys play board games? Like, what do you do? Like, like, what do people do? Because I'm sure we're not the only people who don't have TVs. Then a friend of mine recommended this book called Tech Wise. I read that. I still needed more. Started Googling. I went through this whole like rabbit hole and I found The Minimalist. I didn't even know what the word meant, but I was interested. You just have to watch the Minimalist documentary because that's where it led me to. It's insane. It's amazing. It inspired me. No, we're not minimalist to the point where we can have everything in a backpack, but
One day.
yeah.
Maybe
One
not.
day when we have like an empty nest, like maybe we'll have backpacks in like a camper or something. But it really inspired me to look at what I have and like why I have it. Oh, then I love Courtney Carver and Project 333. That helped me declutter the closet, which was, I had clothes from high school. It was so overwhelming. So I ended up going through Project 333 and loving it. After that, it led me to Marie Kondo. And at first I'm like, this chick is crazy. Like, I really did. I'm like, she's thanking items and welcoming a home. To me, it was just like, this is bizarre. Sign me up. I love it. So then I got really intrigued and I started to really go through everything. I did a men's game, which is you get rid of, you know, as many items per day of the month that it is. So like the first, one thing, second, two things, whatever. So I started sharing my journey at this point with you guys on Instagram. It was really fun. Started to meet a lot of people who were minimalist or aspiring to just live with less. And then I ended up changing my handle to the Minimal Mom, and the community has grown from there, and it's been pretty amazing. So I want to say it took 6 months in total to declutter our whole house.
I think the first round, yeah.
Yeah, because there's different stages, because there's like, I'm gonna declutter this right now, and then in a few months you go back and you're like, oh, why did I keep this?
Well, not to overwhelm you guys, because that may seem like, whoa, you have to go through stages, but you can do it all at once and knock it out. It could take a couple weeks, could take a couple months,
Yeah.
or you can just kind of do high-level sweeps of each area, and then you can, as you go, and that's kind of the basis behind minimalism, is that it's not really like here's a quick spring cleaning and hopefully
Yeah.
it stays that way. It's a frame of mind that
Yeah.
once you get your home to where you want it to be, there's different habits and different cues to help you see like, hey, maybe it's time to get rid of a few things. So it's much more manageable. The first time it's a big load to carry.
Yeah,
But-
it's a lot. But you don't have to overwhelm yourself. So something that I wish I had done before starting our minimalism journey was research Joshua Becker, because he is my ultimate inspiration in the minimalist world. He really is, like, to me, he's like the best of the best, because it's fail proof, it's easy to follow, and he's so inspirational without being overwhelming. And I read his book called The Minimalist Home, and I was like, wow. I still went through the book and did everything he said, because like I said, like sometimes you'll declutter a space and then you'll go back and reevaluate. So that's what I did. Like when he said do the living room, I went back to the living room and I could find a few things that I could get rid of. That was that. But then after I read the book, I kept telling him about it, and then he read it. So you want to tell them what you thought about it?
Yeah, so I did not read this book for like a year, because when she went through the book, she did it pretty silently, pretty incognito, because I don't think she wanted to force it upon anyone at the house. And she also, I don't know if you would share this, but this was like a first big personal challenge to yourself.
Yeah.
To really shape the way our home felt and create a space that was very comforting and free and peace. So
Yeah, did I ever force you?
she never forced me. She only asked me about certain things as she went through closets or things. It was a little uncomfortable, but I've always been somebody who, I don't really like a lot of options anyway, so it was freeing that I could finally let go of some of these clothes that I held on to for years. Or
yeah, like I would try to like
that.
spark up conversation, like, hey, like, you know, in a non-nagging type of way, like, hey, do you need this many black socks? Do you need this many ties? Are you ever gonna wear these ties? And most of the time he would say no, like you can get rid of it, whatever. So I would put in a donation pile. There were a few things where like I knew we didn't need it, so I would bring it up kind of often, and I would joke with people on Instagram. For example, his trophies were his most sentimental possession. Like
the hardest thing to let go.
Yeah, he had like a huge bin of trophies. And I feel like, first of all, if I were to have just thrown those away behind his back, he probably would have been so hurt. And like, I don't recommend doing that, because you're gonna turn that person off to this whole idea of having less, because they're gonna be like, you overstepped your boundaries. So I never did that, but I did bring it up like, hey, these are in the back of the closet. Do you really love them? And then I would be kind of like, I don't know, do you want to display them? Because if you love them so much, maybe you want to see them. I even offered, like, let's take the little, what is it?
The little
Plaque
plaques
thing.
on the trophy itself.
I said, oh, let's take those off and we'll put it on a wood thing and we'll like put it on there and hang it on the wall. So it's like, but then he's like, yeah, but I won't know which one went to which trophy. And I'm like, okay, I get it. So that was something where I kept on. And I want to say eventually kind of like realized it wasn't that sentimental to him. What it was when he looked at those trophies, it reminded him of his dad. It reminded him of going to the fields, but it wasn't the trophy itself. It was just the memories. So I even offered like, let's take pictures of it, which I ended up doing before we got rid of them. I took pictures of them and I sent it to my email so he could always look at them if he wanted to. So far, it's been over a year. You've never wanted to look at the trophy pictures?
I didn't know you had them. So,
yes, he did.
So let's get your phone right now.
Wait. They're in my Google Photos. You can explain the final, like, why you decided to get rid of the trophies?
So
Okay.
We had our nephews over. We were watching them one day, and I think we were going through the storage space again.
Yeah.
That is one thing that I really hated, was constantly going through the storage space. I think we would clean it out and get really organized, and then not even a week later, because it became, you can't just organize things in a tight space and expect that it's going to always stay that way. You really have to make it needs to be proportionate to the space that you're in.
Right, and there's like the saying, like, you can't out-organize clutter. Like, you just have to declutter and then organize. Don't buy a bunch of bins until you have already minimized. So we kind of had that problem where we would fit everything into that little storage space. Like, it was really small and you had to, like, I don't know, like kind of bend down to get all the way to the back. But if you needed something, you had to take everything out. So it was always a mess, always stressful. I shared pictures of that on Instagram when I first did it. That was the first like thing I shared on Instagram that I was truly embarrassed of. Like, I was like, wow, people are gonna think I'm disgusting. I tagged someone who is like a huge organizer, and she wrote back like, wow, you found your floor. And I don't know why, it made me cry. Like, I was like, oh, I don't think it made me cry because she dissed me, but it was kind of like, you're so right. Like, I was living with all of this like clutter that you couldn't even see the floor in the storage room. And then this girl that I still love her and respect her, she actually like pointed that out, and she was like making it a joke. But then I was like, I'm like, challenge accepted. I'm gonna send her all of my before and after pictures. And that's what I did. She didn't even know me, but I was like, look what I did today. And she'd be like, so proud of you, girl. And I was like,
yeah.
Thank you.
Back to the trophies.
Oh yeah, sorry.
No, but that's an important point, because that was kind of a eyesore for our family. People would come to our house and be like, wow, it's so clean, it's so simple, and we got rid of a lot of stuff, but we really struggled with that storage.
Oh, I used to say, make sure the storage room is closed. Literally, this was after we minimized and everything. I would just be like, make sure you close that storage, because it was like right when you walked through the door, it was like right here. So if it was open, or if someone was just like popping in for a second and they saw that, I'm like, they're gonna think we're dirty. And it was like really, it was a lot.
Yeah, and it just goes to show that we really wanted that storage to be clean, but we had to go through an emotional process to make sure that it was in the spot, in the way that we wanted it to look like. So one day we're going through it, our nephews are there, and we pull out my trophies, and they just started playing with them. And one of them was like, "Hey, can I take all your trophies?
Yeah.
I really like these. I wanna tell my friends they're mine."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Okay, you can give him a couple."
Yeah,
And
he
then
said a couple.
he started pulling out the ones that he wanted. I think I ended up going to the store for something, and she texted me and she's like, "Hey, he wants all of them."
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? What the heck? Let him have all of them. And then I was like, this will be good for me, because once he took them, I actually felt released in a way. Like I didn't really need those, because I knew what those trophies represented in my heart. I knew what they meant. I knew of the time where I was so competitive, and baseball was my dream, and playing with my dad, and all those things that drew me to those trophies and made me feel like I couldn't let them go. I realized they were all in here. So she did take pictures of him, of them.
And him with the trophies, because he was so happy to tell
That's what got me mad.
he was so excited to tell all of his little, kindergarten friends that those were his trophies. They said his name on them, but they were his.
Yeah,
so,
these are my trophies from 1994.
And his mom was like, "I'm going to kill you," because she knew I was big on decluttering. And I was like, "Hey, your son wants to take a few trophies home." She's like, "Okay." When she picked them up and she saw the bin that she had to carry, she was just like, "I'm going to kill you." And I'm like, "I'm sorry." I wonder what they did with them. But that just goes to show, if I had thrown it away before he was ready, he probably would have held a grudge. So, and constantly nagging him and stuff, he probably would have been annoyed. Yes, I brought it up a few times, but it was never I'm throwing these away, or let's get rid of this. It was just always "Hey, you sure you want to keep these?" He would say yes. I would kind of let it be, because I wanted him to be ready at his own time. And it worked, because
I think after that, that's when I actually read the Minimalist home. And I was like, okay, our home is pretty minimal. Carlene is doing so much on a daily basis to minimize and keep it like that. I love it. But I really want to understand and process and know how to do that. And I also kind of wanted to find different ways for myself. How can I minimize at my office? How can I minimize in my car? How can I minimize in my own wardrobe? So I ended up reading the book and went through each step, and he breaks it down one by one, which room, where to start, and all that. And I started to do that. And when I went through the process, I was like, man, I really like this. And I really always loved the challenge of really anything. So if you challenge me, I'm probably gonna be like, let's do it. But the challenge of only having 2 ties, and the challenge of only having 1 pair of dress shoes, and making sure that all your outfits match that. And I really love that part of the book. So if you're a husband, or if you have a husband who is interested in something like that, that is such a good book to start with.
And it's from a guy. And that's
it's from his perspective.
Yeah, because I've read a lot of books from women, but it was really good to hand him a book hey, this is a guy writing it. And just remember, minimalism isn't about who has the least amount of things or how minimal you can get. It's about creating a space that works for you, creating a space that allows you to live freely, have more time, and things like that. So don't focus too much on the numbers. But in this case, that was really great for us, because the challenge really made us think about what we had and what really deserved a place in our closets and things like that. And I just want to really quick say this, let's tell the people, who is the bigger minimalist now? 1, 2, 3. So after all of this, and me, he was always on board, but he wasn't really where I was. And at this point in our lives, he is more minimal than I am. Homeboy, you probably will never see him in anything other than black. This is his iconic look.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. We'll talk about that because you guys asked for a house tour, so we're gonna.
We're gonna give you a house tour, and that's a topic that we can touch on. But I think it's just amazing how things kind of come full circle, and he's more minimal than I am, and I'm proud, and I think it's so cool, because it's a story of I don't know, I inspired him, and then now he keeps me kind of in check, because he'll be this isn't too minimal, or this is not. You're right. He makes me think about stuff, because it's a lifestyle. It's not you get there and you're just there, you want something. You constantly are reevaluating, you're constantly seeing what the environment is does this bring joy, is this peaceful? So something like that.
And if you want your husband to clean more, it had an inadvertent effect on me actually cleaning the house, because
Yeah, he cleans a lot now.
I love now seeing like, and I'm looking around, sorry, you can't see what I'm seeing, but my tables are, kitchen tables over here, a bunch of...
We're gonna give a tour.
Living room stuff's all over here, but all of it is usually pretty immaculate, and I like it that way, and I feel like it gives you space to really breathe, and it helps you when you are trying to break up your day, if you're scheduling your day, if you are working. It's nice to know that, hey, this is the time to actually shut off. So when you actually are at home and you are trying to relax, it's nice to sit down and be like, okay, this is the time for me to really relax and be at peace. And so that is what that book, The Minimalist Home, showed me, and just going down the journey of minimalism. And it's funny now because at work, my coworkers will come into my office and be like, man, this is really, you took this minimalism thing to like the next level. Like, it's so, there's almost nothing in there, and it's not that it's like plain and sad. It's actually peaceful, and there's room. I know where everything is. My desk is clean. It helps me work better. I'm much more efficient. And so minimalism has so many different, I don't know, different talents. And
so we've gotten some funny comments though. Like in the beginning, I feel like the comments kind of got played out after a while with like family and friends and stuff who would come over, because I guess in the beginning they thought like, okay, this is kind of ridiculous. And then you keep doing it and you keep doing it, and then they start to see like, oh, she's for real. Like they're for real doing this.
Yeah, we got some hate.
We had a lot of hate.
We had a couple
haters.
Yeah, we had somebody who told us, because we had almost no forks. We had like 2 or 3 forks and 2 or 3 spoons, and they're like, so when you invite people, are they supposed to bring their own plastic
Bring
utensils?
your own plastic, bring your own silverware.
And at first I know that she got a little offended by that, but then I was like, that's a compliment. Like, people are hating because not in a bad way, but hey, this is something that makes people feel a little uncomfortable, because maybe she was dealing with the fact that her home might be a little cluttered, and she's struggling with reconciling the idea of like getting rid of stuff.
Yeah, so one thing is like, you know, it's not about the numbers, but we have never been those people who have a lot of guests over, because we have always lived in a smaller space. So if there's a get together, it'll typically be at like my grandma's house or my mom's house or something. So we don't need a bunch of stuff for guests. And if we do have people over, it's maybe like 2 people at a time. We have enough for that. But we got comments like that often. We got the comment that our house was cold, like the vibe, because it was, you know, or like, oh, it looks like you just moved in, or oh, if I lived there, I would go crazy. At first, it would bother me because it would make me feel bad, but then it was like, you don't live here, and I'm not gonna change what makes me happy. You know what I mean? So it's like, worry about you, like, and what makes you and your little family happy. Don't worry about, you know, the outside noise. If people think you're crazy for getting rid of something that was passed down to you, you're not, because there are certain things that we hold on to because they were sentimental. Really, sometimes we hold on to sentimental.
And I'm only smiling at you because I know that this is an emotional spot for her when people would maybe
like make fun of me almost.
Yeah, but you know, here's the beauty of that, and this is what we would talk about a lot, because my wife's a little bit more sensitive than me, and I don't really get worked up about that, but you can't change how people feel, how they think, how they're gonna react to you. And I thought it was like, hey, this just displays that we have really done this. We actually are minimal, because people, no one can tell, then there's nothing, then maybe you have to look at it again, like, did I actually get rid of the things, or is it really a nice space? But people can visibly see our house is different, our home is different, the way we live is different. And people, if you're doing this, if you're trying to go down the road of minimalism, people aren't always going to agree with you.
Right.
People are going to criticize you, and that's okay, because people are going to live differently than you.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful thing, because I think it's a good eye opener when you see a minimal house, or when you see a cluttered house, and you can see like, hey, what do you want? Which road do you want to go down? So I just want to point that out. If you are a lady, or if you're a guy, it can be a sensitive journey, but hopefully you have some people around you that will support you.
Yeah.
And thankfully we're each other's support system, because anytime someone has said something that kind of made her feel down about what we're doing as a family, I was always there to say, hey, I love what we're doing.
Yeah.
Like, it really what matters is your home. Do your kids feel comfortable with it? Does your spouse feel comfortable with it? Because the whole family needs to be on board.
Right.
And we'll talk a lot more about kids, something that we learned from Joshua Becker on how to raise your kids that way and in a frame of minimalism, not getting rid of stuff without telling them, but kind of showing them and asking them. So we'll talk about that in a later episode.
Yeah, because this is also going to tie into the house tour. I feel like we're going to answer a lot more questions. And then if there's something that you want us to go in depth with or something that you really want to see on the house tour, comment below. We're going to cover as much as possible. We're going to open drawers. We're going to show you closets. We're going to basically show you every part of the house. But if there's anything specific that you want to know how we did it, we would love to give you like a step-by-step.
Because during the tour, we're going to talk about the things that we had, maybe the numbers and why we chose those numbers.
Yeah, why we do or do not have a certain thing, how we got a space to be that way, things like that. And then really quick, I was trying to say that a lot of times we have accumulated clutter that is like passed down to us. And so eventually let's dive into that, probably in another video, but just really evaluating what you have and asking yourself, is it sentimental to me? Does it matter to me? It might've been something that was important to your mom, your grandma, your dad, someone like that. And it might not be important to you. Like, a lot of people have said to me like, oh, I have like fine china, like that I've never used, but like it's been passed down generation to generation. Well, if it's taking up space and you don't want it, you don't have to keep it. If you don't want to be that person that like gets rid of something that's been passed down, ask a sibling, family member if they want it. So it stays in the family, but you don't have the burden of holding on to that if you don't want to. There's a lot of things that we can touch on this topic. So like I said, if you want us to answer a specific question, please let us know, because we could probably talk on this topic for hours.
Yeah, we could go on. This camera could literally go on for hours and hours, and we would just keep going deeper and deeper and deeper because it's been such a long journey on minimalism.
Yeah, it's been a few years now, and it's definitely the life for us.
We love it. We're happy, and I don't see us going in the other direction. I almost feel like I want to actually get rid of more stuff. Yeah,
I feel like that's why I said you have to kind of go back and reevaluate, because something that you held on to months ago might not serve a purpose today. We are debt free and we are always on a budget, and minimalism has helped with that, because I used to be that person who went to Target and walked every aisle and came back with like new stuff, even if we didn't need it. If a doormat, you know that I did, because you would check the account and you'd be like, why did you swipe your card? What did you buy? And I'm like, oh, a new doormat, did we need one? No, it was cute though. Well, we have one. You know, things like that. So it's like, minimalism has also taught me like, I don't need new things just because they're cute or on sale, because I'm gonna end up getting rid of it. And I love, who says this, that the things that we're decluttering used to be money, and that money used to be time. So you're really paying for things with the minutes and hours of your life. So this is really big. I have a hard time making purchases now. And I'll think to myself like, how many hours did my husband have to work for me to buy this thing? And then how long am I gonna want this thing before I end up wanting to declutter it? So it's like a whole thing that goes through my head. I'm on a different level, but keeps me accountable as well.
Yeah, and again, it's just a way of life, because I don't think many things can survive on one big fell swoop. It has to be part of your daily life. You have to build habits and, you know, have certain systems in check to make sure that you can stay consistent with those things. Because I think our homes and our bank accounts and the way that we live just likes chaos a lot. It would rather just do whatever and have it, but you really have to have a handle on that. So,
all right.
Well, if you want to see our house tour and our talk about how we became debt-free, you definitely want to subscribe below.
Please subscribe.
And in a little bit, we'll talk more about, you know, how we actually do minimalism, why do we think the certain things that we do think, why do we choose the things that we do choose, and give you guys a more in-depth approach on, you know, the how-tos more than just the whole big picture. So stay tuned, and we're excited to share that with you guys.
Bye.